So thank you again, everyone, for showing up and welcome to this webinar on AI in learning and development that we are hosting here at Digital Switzerland. And we have three distinguished guests from fellow Digitals, EY, and the University of Zurich. I will present you just in a minute. But first, I also would like to introduce my colleague Despina, who will then
That's me.
moderate, who will moderate the Q&A session uh, in the second part of the
Hey
webinar.
everyone, nice to see you.
So I'm just a bit distracted because I have to let people in. Well, okay, so thanks again. And first of all, I would like to um, introduce Digital Switzerland so that you know what we are actually doing. We are a cross-sectoral organization here in Switzerland dedicated to all the fields of digital. And we are bringing together more than 160 members from the public sector, from the civil society, from government, but mostly also from private sector. So from companies basically that we have represented here as well. And we are really trying to create a dialogue on topics that matter for all, especially as it is today, the impact of AI in different fields. And we are here representing the chapter of education professionals diversity, as you can see on this slide. So our mission is to really push the digital in the educational field, but also when it comes to all the HR processes and learning and development as we have here today. And of course, the big questions, what skills mean now and in the future, and how we can adapt to this development. Besides of education, we have, as you can see here, other chapters on the trustworthy digital infrastructure, as well as a chapter that is addressing literacy and trust. And in the chapter of education, our main goal or main mission that we received from our members is to contribute to the upskilling of workforce, but also closing the gap when it comes to skilled workforce. And that's why we're supporting, first of all, vocational education and training here in Switzerland, but also all the topics that address the professional field, so the working population, and as well DY, especially women, because they're still considered to be the untapped talent pool, but also, of course, 50 plus. So we really want to address the whole range of the working population. And I say working population because, as you can see here, the students, the pupils, are not in our main target group. And now I'm very pleased to present our three speakers, and I will quickly let you, each of you, say 2 or 3 sentences about yourself. So we have first Christopher from EY, then Lauren from the University of Zurich from the Department of Management, and then we have Mark, who is kindly joining from the Netherlands. And I'm really happy that we can host you here from fellow Digitals. So who wants to start?
Happy to go first. Thanks, Linda, for the introduction. So my name is Christopher Holtz. Very pleased to be here. I'm working here in the People Analytics Department of EY, located in Zurich. And my team and myself, we are taking care of the full end-to-end perspective around people, data, and AI. So looking into the strategy layer, looking into data and technology, we need to fuel those AI applications, but also looking into which tools we select for companies to drive value and also how we can adapt those tools in the workforce. That's our focus.
Mhm. Very interesting. And we will learn more about how you are actually doing this afterwards. Maybe Lauren, you want to go next?
Yeah, happy to. Hi, everyone. I'm Lauren Howe from the University of Zurich, where I'm an associate professor in management with a focus on the future of work. So, in my research, I'm interested in topics such as how do people imagine the future of work, like the kinds of skills that will be valued by employers in the changing world of work, and why does that matter for how we feel about and prepare for the world of work today? I'm also interested in how leadership is changing in the future of work. So, for instance, how leaders showing their more human sides, like being open about flaws and shortcomings, might be perhaps a source of strength in the future of work. So, looking forward to the discussion today.
Thank you, Lauren. Mark?
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everybody. I'm Mark Leitner. I'm one of the two original founders of Fellow Digitals. We are based we started off in the Netherlands, but we also are very active in the DACH region for almost 10 years now. The company has been around for 25 years, and we are really focused on providing a software as a service platform for organizations who want to improve knowledge sharing and learning and onboarding their employees and teams. So today we're especially going to talk about our LMS platform. And yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
Thank you very much. I'm also very curious about it, Mark. So first, after this introduction, we would like to explore the kind of the first question. So when you talk about AI in learning and development, kind of from a strategic perspective, how is AI fundamentally shifting the approach to talent and capability building within organizations? What is your take on that?
So you are addressing me, right? So what we especially see, so in the past years, we've seen more and more demand for on-the-job training. That not only with knowledge workers who work at their desks, like probably all of us are doing, but also for all the frontline workers, right? So the world is changing very rapidly. And in the past, it was always the bottleneck to create tailor-made content, e-learning content to get people onboarded and trained very quickly, right? So what we see now, and this is one of the great things about AI, that now finally, after all those years that we've been developing these platforms, we can now, by using AI, we can make it so much easier to create great e-learning content for many different types of workers. So I think that's a very big gain that we can already use today in our daily work lives. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So addressing learning content to people that are not sitting at a desk, having a big screen or two screens, and are being able to read scripts after scripts, or willing to, right?
Yeah, I think that one of the issues, of course, is that so we are really focusing on enabling organizations to have employees teach each other, right? So without going into external consultants who are going to create e-learning content, but just really on-the-job training. And the thing is that most of the people who do their work are not trained educators, right? So they know a lot of stuff about their work, about everything they do day in, day out, and they're perfectly aware of that. But having them transform that knowledge into some form of e-learning content, right? That is easy to consume, and that is, that it's a different skill, right? And so what we have seen in the years before AI is that it was really difficult for these people to actually create compelling content and online trainings, not only for desk workers, but also for frontline workers, right? And yeah, that has now become much more easier because AI is really good at summarizing content and choosing the right form and language. And of course, I still believe that everything that AI generates for us, we have to take it with a pinch of salt still. But if we can get 90 or 95 or even 98 or 99% of the work done already, it's an enormous time saver. And yeah, I see we can already use that today. So that's really great.
Indeed.
And maybe to add on top of that, Mark, I think that this is great, right? Because what we see is that also AI is creating a certain shift in roles and responsibilities within organizations, right? So we would take a software engineer, for example. Here we already have a lot of tools supporting them building the code. So they are shifting into a more managerial role. So they also need to be equipped to make sure, can I trust the code? Like you say, hey, it's not completely there yet. We're not targeting 100%, right? So they need to see, is my code correct? They need to look more after the architectural side of things, for example. And this is, I think, where really these your learning tools can make a difference, because we do not need to throw 100 days learning at each on the software developers, but we can support them strategically with the skills they need to learn for that endeavor.
Yeah, interesting. Maybe Lauren, you wanna take on that?
Yeah, I guess what I see as a really exciting possibility too is to think about the use of AI tools also in training some of the more like managerial skills that maybe take on increasing importance as people are doing their work. So I think now we've seen that actually like AI can serve even as a sort of like coach or as a simulation for developing these skills. For example, if you want to practice negotiation skills, for instance, is one kind of human skill that might be important in the future of work, or also difficult conversations where you need to express some empathy. For instance, if you're, wanting to practice a conversation before you're giving an employee some negative feedback or things like that. So I think there's a lot of potential to think about AI, not just as helping people to kind of enhance their technical skills and kind of even like, help their own like learning and development in that area, but also to help managers kind of enhance the skills that they need to manage people successfully. And I think there's some really creative ways to use AI as sort of a test person to some degree that can simulate responses of how people might react to different conversations.
Yeah, very interesting. So we had now the whole range from like actual technical skills, on the job knowledge to kind of let's say more soft skill or interpersonal skills, such as practicing empathy and or negotiation, as Lauren mentioned it. Now, when we let's just have a deep dive in a practical example. So I would really like to. I'm really curious to see, for example, how you, Mark from Frel Digital, how you do it, and maybe you will be. It will be possible to get some insights in how you
Yes, sure.
how your tool works, basically, for people
Yeah,
having.
so let me share my screen just to give you a quick idea of what we can offer. So you can see my screen, right?
Yes.
Okay, so what we have here is a virtual company, a demo platform. This is for a company called Fresh Roots, and Fresh Roots is an enterprise working in food and beverages, and they have several sub brands like Lotus and Fresh Roots, Fresh to Go, and what they do is they operate restaurant chains, for instance. So especially in this type of work, many employees come and go, right? So it's a very volatile industry. So they have this online training platform where new employees are getting onboarded. So we spoke about this a little bit earlier. So the traditional e-learnings is very much text-based, right? So you get a picture and some text, and then you can read, and there are some multiple choice questions, right, that you have to check. And this is already a little bit better than, let's say, the default manual that you would give a new employee, right? So if we look at the source material for a course like this, it would probably like a Word document. So this could be the real training program that you typically create. Well, if you give a manual like this to somebody who has to work in a kitchen, he will probably not read it and don't pick up any of the stuff that's in there. So basically what we're looking for is to transform the content that we have here into a format that is easier to consume, especially by the new TikTok generation, right? The people who don't have a long attention span. So what we can actually do is to create a micro learning based on that content. So I have an example here of how that would look like. So what we have here is a micro learning that is generated with this content, especially for people who are going to work in the kitchen. And what you see here, this is like a format that is really suited for use on mobile phones, right? Where you just flip through a deck of cards and it's you have some content here. So this video actually is also generated by AI. So you don't need to hire any actor or what. You can simply create the script and then the AI will generate this video for you. So you see, this is basically a very simple form, but it's really much easier to consume. It's shorter, and it's also very easy for you as the learning manager to create or modify this course, right? So it's very easy to create content. You can add new cards if you want to, right? And if you want to, you can easily find a photo in our photo library, and you can maybe move that to the bottom, etc. So there are many options here to create this content. But still, here you would have to build a course like this totally from scratch. So what we're adding to this is the AI course generator. So let me go back to my document. So I have my document here. So this is the boring Word document that I showed you earlier. So what I can do, I can actually go in here, go to generate course, and now I can upload my boring Word document, and I click transform. So what we are doing now is that the AI model is now analyzing the text, creating different chapters, different pages, defining multiple choice questions that we can add to the course, and it even is going on the internet to find the illustrations that we can use to make the course more attractive. So depending on the size of the document, this can take a little bit longer. So what I will do now is I will go in here. This is actually what I've created with the AI earlier today, because I don't want to hold you up. And here you see it just transforms this document into this deck of cards. And you see it's not 100% correct, so I would have to tweak a little bit. But you see it found these pictures on the internet first. It generates the multiple choice question. And just like the other stuff, I can simply create and modify and fine tune it so it matches my the requirements of my audience. Now, especially here in Europe, but also in Asia, not everybody speaks the same language. So transforming the course into the language that your employee will speak is also very important. So built in here, we have a translation feature. So the course is now in English, but let me simply translate it to German, and it will do that automatically for me. So this probably takes a second or two. So here we go. So our vision is that you create lots of different forms of content like this, and then depending on the role that a new or existing employee has in your company, you can share with her the the content modules that are most relevant for them. And you see how easy it is to create this. So there's no more waiting. You can just go ahead and create it and get started.
That's very interesting. Thank you for sharing this, Mark. So we have here now a practical example of how it could be done and how you could kind of create an AI-based learning tool, basically. But now we also have two other experts that you are dealing more with the analysis of data, and because every time someone uses also such a tool, we create data, right? That can be interesting for a company to analyze in order to improve, first of all, the individual journey, the individual learning journey, but also like learn more about maybe a skills gap when it comes to tests. So I don't know if you want to kind of react to this, maybe Chris or also Lauren.
Yeah, maybe let me go first. So I think this is a super cool solution. And as you said, over the course, when the people use this course, obviously we can also track the data where they are good at, where they're not good at. Do we see several patterns? We can analyze that. For example, if we see that a lot of people fail a test at several stages, we can again look into the content and reshape that. I think, Mark, that's probably where AI can also help. But also in terms of the data we generate and how often we use those courses, we can look into also more engagement metrics, right? Also, we can look into if an employee uses the app quite often and then from today doesn't use the app anymore, then probably there's a drop in engagement, and we can look into that and maybe also nudge the manager saying, hey, maybe look after this employee, maybe there's something odd. So we can also support employees and the organization going forward there.
Yeah, I guess. Oh, sorry, Christopher, you?
No, I just thought Linda is on mute probably.
I was on mute, but please, Lauren, go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I think it's a really cool example to see also now how something that would have taken, so much person power to create, how AI can help us to kind of get to that place so much faster, which I think shows a lot of the potential of these tools. I think from my side, one consideration is just maybe like a note of caution sometimes in over-reliance then on these tools, especially when it comes to something like employee onboarding, as you're like kind of welcoming employees into the company. Of course, we see how this can be like super powerful and customizable, but at the same time, we know that a human touch still matters in a lot of cases. So there's one study I really like that came out recently that helps to illustrate this. There was a study with over 6,000 different people, and they gave people messages that were either AI or human generated empathetic messages. And then, asked people to rate how empathetic the messages were, and varied whether people thought that the messages were empathetic, like AI created or human created. Oh, sorry, this is actually not this slide.
Okay.
This is a very different.
I just understood. You're going into another direction. Good.
Yeah, exactly. This isn't my research, but is a study that I think is like a really cool example. So what mattered actually was what people attributed the source of the empathy to. So when they thought that it was human generated empathy, regardless of whether the content was actually generated by AI or by humans, they responded more favorably to it. So I think the framing around these kinds of tools really matters to, like kind of acknowledge when AI input is helpful, but also where like a human touch might be necessary, like in addition, just to kind of make sure that it's kind of the best that humans and machines have to offer, so to say, in combination, that the time that the AI saves by being able to create these programs really quickly is then perhaps invested in humans being able to, take on other tasks that might help to, for instance, onboard someone, like welcoming them personally to the company in a different way. So I think thinking about, where to delegate human and machine work, so to say, is a really pivotal skill for managers to develop in the future, and something that's worth to consider in kind of deploying these tools.
Yeah, I really agree with this, because maybe I'm not sure if the point came across here because somebody in the chat writes this. So what we are actually doing is we are helping the content author, right? The creator of the e-learning content. We are assisting them with building the e-learning courses. But we strongly believe that you should not leave it entirely up to AI to generate these courses because there is an error, there can be errors. Things might not be correct. I think we're not there yet, and it's probably going to take years and years more before we have a fully reliable AI, right? That can really do what you want. And then still, especially when it comes to building up a team, you want to have the people that fit in your culture, right? So it's always a matter of personalization here. Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah, very, very interesting. And I mean, you offer this or you support this whole process of generating the knowledge yourself. So maybe before we go then to the discussion, because there are already a lot of questions in the chat, I would be interested on your thoughts about the personalization of the whole learning process, because this is what something that AI is promising as well. That we, instead of, I mean, now Marcus, for understood your example showed some content that everyone that starts in that kitchen should have that knowledge. But we also have the option that maybe someone already has been working in another kitchen and or in another job that was similar and has kind of transferable skills. So how can we address that?
Yeah, I think maybe let me answer that. Is when we collect this data in recruiting, we can also let that flow into the downstream system. So we can make sure that, for example, the skills we have in a CV, this is somewhere saved, and then the training is catered to that. Maybe Linda, I think this might be a good option to have a look on the more technical platforms we typically see.
Yes.
So generally speaking, AI is a great tool, but without having any data in place, then it's not as mighty as we would assume. So what we typically look at is building a platform for data, right? And then where we then can also distribute the data to several tools downstream, like Mark, your tool to platform to build trainings, but also a central storage for the data, so we can really easily tap other applications into. Typically, how that works is we would build a central data storage, data lakehouse, or which technology is available and makes sense for the use case. And then we would connect like the payroll system to it. So we now can feed the salary data, salary increase data, also historical data to AI. We would connect the recruiting system where we would then move the past CVs to our storage. We would also look into moving the master data management, like position data, job descriptions to the system. And so by building that, we really make it easy for data to be used by AI software so that the AI has the data in place in order to bring any value to the organization, right? Because only if the AI knows the policies, knows the org structure, it can really give detailed and personalized content back.
Yeah, very interesting. So we have here now, we had one example to prepare the tool, and you are kind of on the other side when it comes to the whole analysis, because as mentioned, the data matter, and we need to train the AI tools to be informed about the compliance and the whole ethical aspect as well. So let us maybe continue with the Q&As, and I will hand over to Despina to moderate this. Thank you.
Yes, we have a couple of questions, and now we'll start from the first one from Abel. So what are the unexpected benefits users are reporting by using AI technology for their skills building? And how do companies ensure that the human skills are also part of the training? I think that was addressed to Abel. Any preferences? To Mark?
Maybe to add to that, I think one of the big factors, and that's what we also see in pharma, where the cycles are very long and you have a lot of people with a specific knowledge, and then from sudden, then the campaign stops, and then people need to look for a new job. What this also helps us is creates a certain career path mobility, right? So you can give back the people preferences for other career paths where the skills quite easily match. So making sure those people have a new job when the campaign stops and they hop on a new campaign. I think that's something cool.
Transferable skills, yeah. Mm-hmm. Then we have a question about a tool which is called Synthesia. And I think it's an open question. Somebody's looking for feedback if anyone has used that, because this is this creates training videos featuring AI avatars. Should we take it or? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll have a quick comment on that. So, Synthesis is actually indeed a software to generate videos, like we also provide, right? But that's only one part of the puzzle, right? It generates the videos, and we believe that a rich learning experience is more than just video, right? So yeah, it's one of the tools in the tool belt, I think. Yeah.
And one more question for you, Mark. It's that you mentioned multiple choice questions. And then the question is, when somebody wants to learn well, is it a better choice for people to create multiple choice questions or to answer them? And what are your experiences?
That's the thing I was trying to clarify on before, that actually I don't think that learners should create the questions, but they actually have to answer them. But the tool that we provide is to help the authors of the course to come up with the questions, right? Yeah. So,
but it's still a good approach. Sometimes, like the effort that you put into creating the questions makes you learn as well.
Yes, yes, probably. But maybe in the example of training a kitchen staff, that might not be it. More an academic approach, right?
Yeah. Abel, again, how are companies combining experiential learning models with AI-powered tools? Maybe Christopher or...
I'm not sure if I understand the question correctly. I think AI is a tool which we use to create learnings and which would really personalize trainings and help create them, help tailor them. But we are not sure what these experimental learning models are here. That's a bit my question.
Would you like to clarify?
Yeah, I can. So, from my understanding, experiential learning is kind of learning by doing, which is the most effective way for humans to actually learn. So, okay, it's nice that you have video of how to, but so how can actually you can combine that part of experimenting and actually doing it while having AI as a maybe a tutor or feedback or something like that.
Thanks a lot. That makes it more clear. Yes, absolutely. And I think we can now look into more immersive learning, right? So aside from just courses in the web system, we can look into virtual reality, which also can be generated by AI. So I think this can really make it more hands-on. We're looking in automotive and automation industries already into generated courses, which people then look from their VR glasses and then just build the stuff virtually before they are really building the stuff. And when it breaks, it's quite costly. So I think that's something also Gen AI can help a lot.
Definitely.
And sorry to jump in, but it would be interesting for me to understand, like what Lauren mentioned before. So, for example, the negotiation skills, right? How could this work when you basically you don't have a clear guidance, let's say how to build a car or how to prepare a meal when you're interacting with humans or training soft skills? How could we or what has been done already, like in that area using AI?
If there's a question to me, happy to answer and then maybe pass it on to Lauren
Anyone?
and Mark. So what I personally really like is the option to just talk to the system, right? Like the ChatGPT voice mode or Claude and Gemini have this as well. So you can just talk to them and they are asking you questions and you provide the answer and they are assessing you on the fly, giving you hints where you can deepen your learning. I quite use that a lot for myself. I prime that and then I just have a half an hour drive in my car when I'm going somewhere just to deep dive into something. I think this is cool.
Good.
Interesting.
Yeah, maybe just to add my 2 cents. I actually think it's cool to think about AI as an opportunity to get feedback on some of these softer skills. Given that, at least in the world of research, people have started to use AI like in research as kind of thinking about it as a tool that can give the like average sort of human reaction to certain like stimuli. So, if you say like, hey, here's a cover letter I've written for a job. Can you, tell me if you think it would have good chances of being hired or not, sort of thing. So I wonder if, like, for some of the softer skills, if AI could actually provide feedback to say, hey, like, here's how your response was empathetic. Here's some points for improvement. And if that can actually help to make kind of progress on these so-called sometimes like intangible skills seem more tangible. So I'm curious, like, if anyone's actually heard examples of companies, using tools to give feedback on social and emotional skills like that. I haven't come across any yet, but I'm sure there's lots going on actually as companies are kind of experimenting with integrating these tools.
Also with the tone of your voice and everything.
Do you work with that, Mark? Have you come across of these type of requests?
Well, not so many, but this is mainly, I think, because of the type of companies we help with knowledge sharing. So we see a lot of on the job trainings, right? This very straight out stuff. But of course, it's not limited to say health and safety courses, but also how to deal with customer complaints, things like this, right? And but the interactivity with during the learning, like I said, I think it can be done, but it can be tricky if AI gets it wrong, right? So you don't want to train your cashier by being saying the wrong things to your customers, right? I think that's it. Yeah, so.
All right, Frank, to Lauren. Lauren, you mentioned leadership at the beginning. What can a leader do to strengthen learning?
Yeah, I think that's a great question and probably could be a topic for a whole nother webinar. So maybe I'll just give one out of many possible examples that I think like speak to me personally. So I think one thing that's really important for a leader to do to strengthen learning is to actually kind of role model its importance in and of themselves to show that they are making time to also work on their own kinds of skills and continue to learn. In fact, there's some research that shows there's a lot of benefits to leaders being open about this, like role modeling feedback that they've received can help to create a climate of psychological safety at work that also can encourage people to kind of voice different strengths or weaknesses in order to continue kind of learning and developing. Another kind of aspect that I think is really important here is communicating a growth mindset about skill development. Probably some of you have heard about this concept of a growth mindset, that skills can be learned and developed is a really important message to get out there. And I think that's something that leaders can help to also kind of explicitly endorse to say, hey, I think that skills like empathy or coding skills are important for the future of work, and they're skills that I think you can learn and develop. And that's why I'm providing you with these training opportunities, for instance. So I think to really emphasize the importance of learning to frame skills as those that can be learned and developed through effort. And maybe this also goes back a little bit to the question of like companies making sure that they train human skills as well as technical skills. But I think, one other important thing to strengthen learning kind of across different skill sets is also to make sure that you as a leader are paying attention to the skills that you say are important for the future of work. And this is actually maybe, Linda, where you can pull up the slide that you had up. So I'll explain it since there was a little teaser there. But in some of my research that we've done on how people envision the future of work, what we found is that if you ask people, what's most important for the future of work, people really recognize the importance of technical skills, right, as things to develop for the future of work. That's clear that technology matters and is changing rapidly, and that those are skills that we need to get a handle on. But oftentimes, I think perhaps because there's this focus on technology, people overlook the importance of fundamentally human skills like empathy or emotional intelligence that actually a lot of expert predictions say will matter in the future of work. So just a couple of statistics here from an ongoing research project, in case you're curious, is for instance, in a study where we asked 123 executives from companies across the globe what trends are really important in shaping the future of work. Most said the growing importance of technical skills is really going to matter, but actually just around a third said the same for soft skills. So there seemed to be just, a little bit less emphasis on those human skills than we might expect. And the same was true actually when we talked to students. So, those who are investing significant time, energy, and money in preparing for the future of work. When we asked them, what kinds of skills do you think employers are going to want in the future of work? A lot of them mentioned only technical skills, the majority, and less than a third mentioned the combination of both technical and social and emotional skills as those that are going to matter for the future of work. So I think also as a leader, kind of emphasizing, hey, it's not just technical prowess that matters in the future of work, but also these fundamentally human skills and how they can be brought together with technical skills can help to make sure that people are kind of invested in training broader skill sets. And as a shameless kind of self-plug in the chat here, I'm going to just drop, in case you're curious to learn more about the research that's ongoing, a link to subscribe to our newsletter and also to follow us on LinkedIn, where you can learn more about studies like the one I just shared with you.
Lauren, there's also a good question regarding this training human interactions and human skills, which is how do you manage the bias in the AI-based on cultural expectations, the cultural norms, and what is your take on that?
I think that is a really, really important caveat to raise, and is something where I think it's really important to see that there's also people who are working on, because right now we have these models that are emerging out of places like Silicon Valley, right, with all of the biases that are entailed there. And I think seeing then like other countries that are working on their own models can be something that's interesting to kind of contrast. So I imagine maybe even trying to interact with several different models, perhaps from different cultural contexts, could be a path forward in the future as these things are developing. And otherwise, I would just say, like any kind of tool, right? You have to think about the strengths and limitations of the tool that are inherent to it. And that's where I think actually education in whatever form, whether it's education through schools, through the workplace, has a role in making sure that people are interacting with these tools critically, right? To say like, hey, it's AI, it can be powerful, but it's based on human data. Humans are biased. So these are the things that are going to come up when you're interacting with AI, to take into account and to, not take its word as the end all be all, but to take it with a grain of salt. So I think it's important to actually, as an educator in whatever domain, to make that very explicit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I can add to that just one thing. So what we do, because we're mainly active here in Europe, so we explicitly chose to use large language models that are created here in Europe by Mistral. And then for our Asia companies, the customers, we are working with AI Singapore, who is generating LLMs specifically for the Southeast Asian market, right? So taking into account the local languages and culture there. So and then still, of course, there's the human check afterwards. But that's a good point.
Good. One question to Christopher. You mentioned tests, and the question is, to what extent does it make sense to combine tests or testing with interactive hands-on learning and constructive feedback?
Yeah, I think you all you need to look at the big picture, right? And not just looking at one single learning, but it's more the full picture, right? The personal interaction with the manager, the feedback you get from that, the training you get, about the tools, and also the test component where you prove the employees have to have that certain skills learned from that. Also from hands-on learning, doesn't matter where you get that skills from, but in the end, I think you really need to make sure that the employees can prove that they have learned the skills, especially when we look into compliance-driven organizations like hospitality, restaurants, right? There are several food regulations around where we really need to make sure employees have that skills, or in pharma where there's quite a lot of regulation around the plants itself. So I think we really need to look at the full picture.
A practical question regarding the future of work from an HR perspective. So do you already see new job roles emerging or displacing within the HR learning, development, education departments as part of introducing AI into their world? And I think that's a hot discussion nowadays.
Yeah, maybe let me get the first shot, and then again, Mark and Lauren, if you want to chip in, please. What we did at EY is we appointed a chief AI officer in order to speed up the process of implementing AI within the organization, deeply connected to our chief learning officer, who has a full AI focus. So we are looking mostly, when we create new learnings, into AI driven learnings, how we use AI, but also trainings generated by AI. And the chief AI officer also needs to look after the compliance piece. So in the end, we are an audit company, so there's also a heavily regulation around that. So I think that's maybe one role we see emerging.
Any other voices here?
Yeah, I maybe would just echo that. I feel like there's more and more like an emergence of roles that are focused on like the human kind of oversight, right? And making sure that that human touch is firmly in place across a variety of different titles. But yeah, the kind of like AI manager, chief AI officer of the future, right? At whatever level, to make sure that what's the input from AI is being kind of integrated wisely and also checked for challenging issues or challenges.
Okay. I see another three questions in the chat. So what are ways you involve users or customers in learning efforts with employees and other stakeholders, if possible with examples?
Yeah,
Mark.
I think this boils down to company culture at first. So if you as a leader really want to create a culture where people share knowledge, then you should really and encourage that. And then, of course, tooling is the way to implement that. So we have been around for 25 years, and basically we started off as a knowledge sharing platform, like a professional community. And the basis of our product is still like this. And then on top of that, later on, we learned, people not only want to share documents and having a social intranet where they can ask questions, but also offer a more structured way of offering e-learning content. So I think, as this is a webinar about AI, what I believe is that if you really give the people the tools to make it easier to, transform their knowledge about how things are done within the company and turn that into nice, easy to create content, you can get we're getting better at that now. But if there's not culture or not a real need in companies to share then you can add all the AI and all the tooling that you can think of. But yeah, it's a human business, right? That's
Indeed. I see one more question relating to the research presented by Lauren. Do you think that students would have a stronger leaning towards technical skills as they enter the workplace versus mid-career professional that may learn more towards soft skills? So do you see a change, like
Yeah, so generally, what some research has shown is that people tend to appreciate soft skills more when they have kind of longer
Brilliant.
career trajectories, right? It's something that you learn is important as you go through your career over time. But interestingly, we did find in the research kind of looking at people's visions of the future of work that even among those who were more advanced in their careers, like the executives that we looked at, right, there was still this kind of tendency to focus more on technical skills as the most kind of urgent thing for the future of work and to underweight um, soft skills a bit more. So we did see that kind of across different populations at different career stages. Um, Suggesting that there's still kind of this imbalance, even if over time people might come to appreciate soft skills a bit more.
Mm-hmm. And one, I guess, last question to everyone. Is Anita still here? Because there is a question about if there are general recommendations concerning tools. If Anita is here, she could also clarify what specific tools he was referring to, or is generally AI tools? He's not here yet.
Currently not here.
Yeah. And then the very last question, how do we strengthen critical thinking in learners? What good is AI? How good is AI at that? So critical thinking. That's a good question. Too close.
Maybe just a quick response here is I think actually like a lot of people in the scholarly community, especially in education, are worried that it's going to be the opposite, right? That AI actually is going to undermine critical thinking as people just, look for answers without questioning them, right? As, what maybe would have taken a person's, their own kind of energy and critical thinking to look on Google and like find different sources and come up with a conclusion can now rapidly be done, one query to ChatGPT sort of thing. So I think strengthening critical thinking in the context of AI is actually making sure that people see AI as a tool in a toolbox that has strengths and limitations, and that actually, like, again, going back to this point, like I think human educators need to point out the need for critical thinking when interacting with AI, and that's maybe a way to bring critical thinking along with AI.
Good. Mm-hmm. Super. Then I think we're done with the questions.
Yeah, and thank you for all these for these many questions and of course also the responses. So let me maybe just have a few thoughts to wrap up. We have this very, very broad topic, AI in learning and development, and we kind of touched upon different aspects of it. So what I noted down is well, still we have AI, but knowledge still matters, maybe more than ever. So critical thinking matters, but also technical knowledge and hands-on knowledge. And we have seen AI enhanced or based tool by shown by Mark, where that helps people who are not in the knowledge field or not educators to transmit their knowledge very easily to others, which, as I understood, is kind of the very very idea of how you or why you founded a company, so that we still have to transmit knowledge one to another, and that is absolutely worth it, and that we should not only depend on machines, but we can absolutely use AI as a tool in a toolbox, as Lauren framed it, and also take a benefit of it. But of course, then be aware of where the data is coming from, and still be aware of how we use it. And I also found it very interesting what Christopher told us about not only how data that we create can be used and understood, but especially that within companies, it's a lot going on to make sure that this data is used by certain standards, and that we can have a benefit out of it. So this is the whole range of it, and I think, yeah, I really thank you for your engaged discussion and the questions and comments. Maybe one of the speakers wants to have a last word. Please go ahead.
Thanks a lot for the time here and the good questions. And also happy to connect with you on LinkedIn. I'll put a link into chat, so feel free to add me. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, same here. It was a real pleasure to share our insights with you and learn from you as well. So hope to see you somewhere online too.
Yeah, from my side, thanks for all of the also very interesting questions and wishing you the best with the future of your work and experimenting with these exciting tools that are developing.
Thank you very much. Thank you for taking the time. Enjoy the rest of your day. And then I will switch off the camera now.